All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to UK CORRAL. This is the podcast that reviews every single comic ever written by a UK writer. I'm your co-host, Michael, and as always, I'm joined by Adamantium.
Not a Skrull.
All right. All right. Adam does not tell us what his sound effects will be before we roll. It is a surprise. So,
not a pleasant surprise. I want to point out the fact Mike did not say that. So
that's true. Anyway, we're also joined by Nice Man.
Nicer than ever.
Who demanded that we start reviewing Mark Millar comics. And so, of course, we accommodated him and we picked his first Marvel comic, Skrull Kill Krew.
Mike, before you go on, you son of a Skrull. You tricked us a little bit.
Wow.
Because you said Mike Millar, so I was getting my incense and my, Holy Cross ready. I didn't realize it wasn't just Mark Millar. It was also Grant Morrison who co-wrote this.
Yes, it was. And from what I understand, they wrote it, at a pub while they were getting loaded.
Well,
probably,
spoilers, that's very obvious.
We'll get to that later. The only other research I did was that this is one of the first assignments that Tom Brevoort, I guess, got. And it was meant to be a regular series, but because the market crashed, they wanted to cancel it at number 4. But Tom Brevoort insisted that the creators get a 5th issue to wrap up the story. And so that's why it's a miniseries. But anyway... So, for those who don't know, this follows up, I'm just going to say one more thing. This follows up on the classic Kirby and Lee Fantastic Four story where, I think it was number 2, where the Skrulls are defeated and then they're tricked into turning themselves into cows to just kind of let them live out the rest of their life as cows. Then in a later story, they were brought back, right? And then Grant Morrison or Mark Millar had the idea that those cows would then get turned into beef and eaten as hamburgers, and that's where we are here, right? And we'll just leave it at that.
It's interesting because I just want to keep in mind, and this is not a spoiler because we're going to be getting to this very quickly in this issue. When a Skrull is killed, they revert back to their original body's form. Because for people who don't know, we should mention the Skrull are a race of shape-shifting aliens. They've been part of the Marvel canon for decades at this point. They've played a major part in storylines for the likes of Avengers, Fantastic Four, etc., with the Secret Invasion storyline, pretty much across the entire brand of Marvel Comics. They were major players. But in all continuity, as far as I'm aware, if a Skrull is killed, they revert back to their alien form, which means if these Skrulls returned into beef, they would have... We'll get to that when we reach that.
We'll get to that later. Okay. All right, let's just jump into this. Skrull Kill Krew number 1, and Adamantium is going to tell us what happens in this one.
Okay, so we open up just immediately in a classroom where we see 2 people kick open a door and start shooting. They kill the teacher, and they kill one of the students within the room. And it's revealed through their transformation, yes, these 2 happen to be Skrulls. So cold open right away, seeing what's happened, and we're met by these 2 characters. What are their names? I don't remember. I think one was
I think it's Ryder. Is this Ryder?
Yeah, so we have 2 individuals. Moonstomp is, as is going to be insinuated, a white supremacist skinhead. And then his partner is a dreadlocked, muscular black fellow named Ryder. And it's I will say, a bold choice to have this as a pairing for 2 characters. There is potentially a lot of interesting storytelling to take place with that sort of dynamic. Will that take place? We'll see. Then we cut right over to a beach where we have some people just hanging out, lounging, and one of their group is out surfing. Now, this person surfing, he suddenly has these visions of looks like an abattoir with all these cows hanging up. He falls under the waves, and he has all these other strange visions of alien planets and spaceships. And he finds that he can shift his physiology. He grows gills so he can swim under the water. And when he's washed back up to the shore, he's telling his girlfriend how bizarre this was. It feels like his head is exploding, only for her head to explode because, blam, there we are. Moonstomp and Ryder are there at the beach, and they've just killed his girlfriend, revealing that she happens to be a Skrull. And then we get a big chase scene, revealing some powers of these two. Particularly, Ryder seems to have shape-shifting abilities himself. He changes into a weird bull. He changes into something where his dreadlocks turn into sort of snakes. And they finally catch up with the surfer. And then we cut over to an art exhibition where there's a bunch of kind of artsy, new wave looking people. One of them is a young woman with this incredible shock of hair. The way she's dressed up almost reminds me of the singer-songwriter Laurie Anderson a little bit, but she happens to be named Heidi. And Heidi happens to start getting this bout of illness, and when she recovers from it, she is able to see Skrulls. So the thing about the Skrulls is that they can, of course, shift their form so that they just resemble anything they want to, in this case, human beings. But it looks like she's able to see what Skrulls are actually out in the open, who's pretending to be a human being. And so the Skrulls that she confronts out on the street, they start pursuing her. We cut back to Ryder and Moonstomp talking to this individual, the surfer, and they reveal, no, we don't actually want to kill you. We know you can be one of us, that you probably have some sort of abilities and you've had some strange visions, and we could use you for our mission. Going back to the woman, she's being cornered by these humans, or I should say Skrulls disguised as humans, but thankfully, by plot convenience, they are gunned down by the Skrull kill crew who chance upon her, and they basically force her to realize she has powers herself, and she shapeshifts into some sort of giant being and kills the Skrulls that were assailing her. And they even managed to get the surfer, who they had rescued earlier in the issue, to execute some of his own shape-shifting abilities. It is just a revelation in the end that they all have these powers and that they want them as part of their group. And that's how that issue ends.
Before I say a word, I want to know what Nice Man has to say about Skrull Kill Crew #1, because this is the comic you demanded, so let's hear it.
First of all, let's make it absolutely clear. The last thing in the world I would demand is a Mark Millar, reviewing a Mark Millar comic.
Oh, okay. I had that wrong.
Yeah, really. And what can I say? Oh, yeah, I should also clarify that I don't believe this is a true collaboration between Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. From my understanding, Grant Morrison contributed the main concept of what if those Skrulls that were turned into cows or reverted to the form of cows, what if they were then, chopped up and made into hamburgers, and their genes got into the populace, which is a nice kind of Grant Morrison idea, But beyond that, my understanding, and I say my understanding because, if I'm to be corrected, that's great. My understanding is that Mark Millar was responsible really for the characterization and the plotting.
Okay.
This is just an excuse for, just shoot them up. There's never any real danger. The characters are a load of bollocks. Apart from what I just said about the Grant Morrison idea, I just don't think so. I like the cover. The cover's good. Do we know who did the cover?
I believe it must be Steve Yeowell, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see, Steve Yeowell's a good artist, and he has his moments here.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, he's not really well suited for this, I think. I think he's better suited for like the Sebastian O, which he did with Grant Morrison, a more meditative, slower. I mean, he's good. Just look at the cover. That's really good. But no, I mean, really, what you see, I've got nothing to say, and I can't stop saying nothing.
Well, I'll jump in for a minute here, okay? I'll say this is that I was reading comics, of course, at this time, Marvel Comics, and I was just starting to get out of Marvel, right? Because I was not enjoying Scott Lobdell and X-Men. I was not enjoying Mark Bagley on Spider-Man. I wasn't enjoying the direction of anything. And so I stopped buying, but and I didn't come back until Grant Morrison did New X-Men, okay? But I will say, in the 90s, there was very few Marvel comics I enjoyed. Maybe Marvels by Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek. Maybe Untold Tales of Spider-Man by Kurt Busiek. Maybe a few others. But I'll tell you right now, Paul, I think this is better than almost every Marvel comic that was out at this time. And I know it may be superficial, throwaway, inconsequential, empty calories. And, maybe there was comics that had more heart than this at the time. But as far as just the way it just rolls off the page, the way you can just read it and enjoy it, on that level, I did enjoy this. I thought it was I did laugh out loud a few times. There was a lot of good lines of dialogue, which we'll get to in later issues, especially. I think that it's almost like a light version of Invisibles, right? Like kind of recruiting the team and then finding out there's this secret mission that they all have to go on instead of fighting. I think, who did the Invisibles fight? I don't remember what it was called, but in this, it's the Skrulls, right? And the way that they can just so easily kill them, of course, like you said, there's no danger. They just basically blast through all these guys.
The Invisibles were up against the was it the Archons, the interdimensional church or something, and something like they'd already enslaved many humans without the humans realizing. So yeah, it's a very similar theme, and it reminded me in a good way. I love the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1950s film.
Sure.
So this is a bit similar to that. I just don't like just sensationalism for its own sake. Invisibles I love. And so it's not that I don't, but it's like, how sensationalistic can we be? I know, let's have a Rastafarian type muscle-bound guy alongside a skinhead white supremacist. And it's funny you should say about the dialogue being kind of funny or something later on. I thought it was shite. I thought that this is how this is mainly Mark Millar. And I say it Miller, even though it's an AR, not an ER.
Yeah, no, apparently it is Millar. It is pronounced Millar.
Because he's, in my mind, he's always been in love with himself.
That's true.
And he thinks his writing is great. He thinks he's cute. He thinks he's witty. He thinks he's smart. He doesn't have an ounce of the intelligence in his writing that Alan Moore does or Grant Morrison does.
That's
he doesn't have an ounce of the wit or anything that Grant Morrison and Alan Moore do. And it's just so, when you read it, it's just so forced and contrived and, aren't we cute? Aren't we funny? And it's just, no, you're not intelligent. You're not funny. You're not witty. You're not insightful. This is bullshit sensationalism masquerading as writing, which is what I say about every damn Mark Millar comic. But the man, as I've said many times, is a millionaire. So well done, Mark Millar.
But here's the thing is, like I said, I've read, Scott Lobdell X-Men and Howard Mackie Ghost Rider and all that stuff from this era. Even Mark Renwald, who I like. I cannot get through a single issue of that stuff. But I found myself just falling through these pages as I was reading them. I enjoyed it. And I'm not saying that they were great, but I enjoyed every second reading it. But Adam, what did you think?
Well, I think it's interesting because it's a very quick read. I think the last couple comics we've read, I really had to ruminate and take some time over them. This was just, I read this within an hour, all 5 issues, to be honest.
Right.
And, I don't know if that's complimentary or not, but, it certainly is what happened for me. I do agree with something that you had said, Mike, and I just want to extrapolate on it, that maybe this doesn't have the type of heart that you would expect in some other comics or hope to read. And something that I want to go off of what Nice Man said is that you can tell it's not really Morrison writing it because Morrison puts heart into everything he writes. There is not an irreverence, but a complete reverence for whatever the subject matter is. And I think that's what the difference is between Morrison and I'll just say Millar from now on. I think I've been mispronouncing his name. But it's just that case where there's nothing wrong with being irreverent in comic writing. Sometimes it's good to take the piss out of something. But it's so weird for me, as we're going to see, this is so entrenched within the continuity of the Marvel Universe, to take the piss out of it while also entrenching yourself within it. It's almost like you're trying to have it both ways. You're trying to satirize and poke fun at the bear while also trying to tame it. And I don't know if that necessarily works. What I will say is, I think the core concepts of the story are interesting. What if you had an elite group of these characters trying to figure out who these masquerading aliens were? What if this beef that was ground up and produced into hamburger was eaten by people and they were given some sort of powers by eating the genetic components of the Skrull? Like, I think that's a very interesting take. And as I even said, I will see where it goes in terms of how the group dynamics are. I think pairing this big dreadlocked black man with a diminutive, skinny white supremacist is an interesting dynamic. And I think, with Millar, there's obviously a lot of provocation that he tries to execute in his works. And, for something like this, it can go in one of two ways. You have this for shock value, or you have this to tell an interesting story and explore some character dynamics. We'll see by the fifth issue which part he chooses to go down. But I will say I was not really disappointed with this first issue. It actually set up a lot where maybe I didn't care much for the dialogue, and I was actually very disappointed by the artwork by Yeowell. It was such a steep decline compared to what I'm used to from him.
True.
But with that said, I did like the setup. My one real caveat for all this, aside from some issues with the dialogue, the Skrulls are not a threat in any capacity. In fact, it seems like the main characters are antagonistic because we're going to see more of what's happening with the Skrulls on Earth as these issues goes on, but there's no setup to really show they're antagonistic. It just shows they're almost trying to ingratiate themselves into human civilization. And I think it's a missed opportunity. What a great twist this could have been if these crew of these killers that we're following actually were the antagonist, and they were just a bunch of, I guess you could say, xenophobic. Would that work for extraplanetary beings?
Sure.
Elites that are trying to kill these people who are trying to habitate the Earth. That's not where the story goes, but I just feel that's such a missed opportunity because that's such a great concept.
Well, first of all, that's exactly what I was thinking as the story went on, is how callous they're being about just wiping out all these Skrulls. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, who do they think they are? Ice? And the thing is this idea was touched on in Marvels, right? Mm-hmm. Where they treated the Skrulls like refugees, basically. Mm-hmm. Right? Whereas Mark Millar, at this point of his career, would not have ever thought of that because he's just more about the entertainment value. But we're going to get to that.
One quick thing, Mike, just before we go, because I have to say this. You can always tell when a comic has been made before a certain event because this comic was produced before 1998, and with a shooting scene taking place within a classroom, there's no way Marvel would have ever approved that sequence to take place in a post-Columbine world.
Good point. The other thing I want to say is I do think the pencils are okay, but I think it's the inks that ruin it by Chris Ivey. I think the inks are pretty terrible. They're almost like Image. Like they just flatten it out to nothing. It's
very Image, yeah.
Yeah, no skill there. Anyway, okay, I'm going to summarize the next issue. Okay, so now Captain America joins the story. And we pick up where we left off last time, and we're still learning what everyone's powers are. And then we cut over to... Look at this. Look at the shot of Captain America right here. I love it. Basically, Captain America's in a classroom interacting with some kids. And look at this. Look at this. Like, he's like, sure you can. Say Say, what is that? Is that what I think it is? Sure, apple pie. Want some? This is obviously Mark Millar, right? But I'll get to that later. But Mark Millar really pissed me off the way he portrayed Captain America in Ultimates. But I'm just gonna leave it at that. Then we're introduced to this like pop star, right? Named what is her name again?
I think she takes on the identity Catwalk. I forget what her actual name is here, though.
Okay, so she goes into the bathroom in an airplane, and she's getting flashes of these abilities that she has. She sees herself as a cat in the mirror, and then we're cutting back to the plane, and these hijackers try to take over the plane, and then we cut away, and we're back with our Skrull kill crew, and they're having a almost Tarantino-esque discussion about what their names are going to be. Look at Paul, he enjoys it even more. I love it. And so they're talking about code names, and they're talking about, well, how about my name's Riot, and then how about your, we'll call you Cowboy, just back and forth, that type of thing, right? It was 1994. So then now we're back at I don't remember where we are here. This is an airport, right? And Captain America's at the airport, and I don't remember. Is this the authorities that he's with here? I don't remember what happens here.
Basically, he's waiting for a political leader from another country to join, and he's going to be like an escort for them. And so there's also terrorists within the lounge that he's waiting within. So that's why they hold the guns out and put him at gunpoint.
Okay, I have to bring up my favorite line of the whole book. Stay right where you are. You heard him, hero. I know you heard him because I can see your ears sticking out of the side of that dumb mask. I love that line. Anyway.
That line I like.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, we cut back over, and now Ryder and the rest of the Skrull kill crew are kind of giving he's giving some exposition about what we talked about earlier, the Fantastic Four story where the Skrulls were defeated, then they were turned into cows. And then the idea is here, you can't see me pointing to my screen, but they became hamburgers. And so that is the explanation for where all these Skrulls are coming from, right? These Skrulls that are hidden among American society. So anyway, we're cut back to Captain America fighting these terrorists, and he ends up defeating them, and then rendezvousing. Oh, no, just before he's about to meet up with the Skrull kill crew, we are introduced to Baron What is his? It's Herr Strucker, but what's his full name? Baron von Strucker, right?
Baron von Strucker, yes.
Yeah. So he is from the 60s Shield, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, and that brings us to the end of our story. So shit has just got real. So, we obviously by introducing Captain America and Baron von Strucker, it kind of brings us deeper into Marvel continuity. And again, I thought this was fun. This was 1994, so I don't know if they were thinking Tarantino. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But I thought it was it was again. I'm treating this the way. It's funny because last week Paul was lecturing Adam about appreciating the comedy of
what?
Batman. Remember the Batman Library of Souls story?
Oh, yeah.
And here we are, and now we've got a 2000 AD-esque satire in the vein of like Judge Dredd or what's that, Robo Hunter or whatever it's called. And that's how I see this. I see this as just pure, having a laugh. Or what is that? How do British people say it? Having a laugh, right?
Yes, having a laugh.
Yeah.
It's I thought the same thing, that if you take away Baron Strucker and Captain America, you could maybe make this a one-issue What If.
Okay.
From the What If series. You could also split it into like shorter chapters and stick it in 2000 AD, something like that. It's not really a Marvel comic.
Wow. I know.
They stick Captain America there, stick Baron Strucker there, but it's not really a Marvel comic.
I don't know. I don't think there's such a narrow definition of what a Marvel comic is. But
they, even back when they were doing all the tie-ins, and they have a Godzilla issue with like Iron Man or whatever?
They did because
yeah.
Godzilla was technically owned by Marvel, or at least they owned the rights for the comics for a while. Yeah.
They mixed it up for sure. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, that was silly. That's not a Marvel comic. You know, there are some things that you just know, okay, quite why are Captain America and Baron Strucker here? Because there really isn't a whole lot of meat to this.
So to speak.
Got to shoehorn something else in. Now, that's a really nice page.
It is.
Really nice page. And it just goes to show you how good Steve Yeowell can be. But doing all this fast-paced action with numerous characters, it's not his forte. So one day when we do Sebastiano, we'll see what we think of his art there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we've got all the Nazi stuff with Baron Strucker, who's looking in superb shape. I think he's been to the gym, worked out with a personal trainer. He's looking healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And God help me, we now go on to the third issue, and can I possibly...
Wait, we haven't talked about this one. Adam, what do you think about this one?
In some ways, this was my favorite issue of the whole run, because I did think, oddly enough, what I liked the most is actually what you brought up, Mike. I like the Captain America bits. I like how there's a sort of irreverence that he's being written with, where it's not making fun of him either. Like, it's poking fun at him, but he's still competent. He's still able to disarm the terrorists and save everyone who's within the building. There's a lot of jokes made about, women fawning over him, especially one waitress. And it's a cringy joke, but after he defeats the bad guy, she goes, "Oh, I want to have his babies." It's cringy, but at least it's like not offensive to me. The whole thing though with the Skrull kill Krew, the dialogue, like you said, it's bargain basement Tarantino. This sort of pop cultural riffing that isn't clever. Like, the reason Tarantino was so revered in Pulp Fiction and, to an extent for Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown around this time was because it was kind of witty and it was clever and it was riffing off pop cultural sort of iconography. And here, they're not really doing it. Like, okay, so the one Laurie Anderson looking character, she references Riot Girl and she wants to call herself Riot because she's a punk rock girl. Great. That's like the biggest cliche you could have. That's wonderful. We have...
But cliche to who? Like, honestly, anyone reading this, would they have even got that? I don't think so. I don't know.
I think to people who are more privy to underground, maybe a little bit more, how should I say, contrarian media...
Sure,
which
yeah.
is what Mark Millar was aiming for. That's what he was trying to do.
But I just got to say, but that's why I think, I'm not saying it's as good as Tarantino, but that's an ingredient you would not have got from Scott Lobdell or Howard Mackey or any of the people writing at Marvel at that time. And that's why I think I like it.
I just felt it landed flat for me.
Okay.
And then I want you to go to the page I had referenced earlier. The massacre of the Skrulls in their cow form. So the basic idea is the U.S. government, after the Avengers had fought the Skrulls and they had brainwashed them and convinced them to turn into cows, the government said, okay, we're going to do the thing the Avengers wouldn't do, which is kill them. So they bring them over to an abattoir and mercilessly kill them. But the people who are working there, they're not government agents. They're just people working at an abattoir. They're killing cows indiscriminately, and they revert to Skrull form. So why wouldn't someone working at this abattoir, just go, "What the hell is this?" And why would they just blindly let this mutated, alien-looking thing go into a meat grinder? Like, there's one story beat. There's a way to fix this somehow, and I'm not going to dignify it by trying to figure that out. But they could have done something else where there isn't this obvious logical jump. Because as soon as the Skrull dies, it's reverting back to that form. That should full stop just have been the worker just going, "What the heck is this?" And they are not going to be ground up and turned into pate. But that's not the case. So that's a story beat that takes me out of it a little bit.
But they do, to be fair, they do show the Skrull hanging there, so he does revert to his natural form. It's just that how did the butcher or whoever not notice. Wait a minute, that's not a cow. That's a Skrull, right?
That's what I'm
you're-
saying. That's my big hiccup with it, the big logical fallacy of this. If it was just like some sort of weird automated system and they maybe even referenced that, maybe if someone said, well, if Skrulls turn back to their form, why didn't no one notice?
Right.
They could have said anything like, oh, factory farms, no one
Sure.
pays attention. And that could even be like a little play, a little like satirization of industrial farming. But they
Right.
don't do that, and it becomes a misstep, and it's just like a logical jump.
Sure.
And again, to the point I made earlier, there's still no indication that the Skrulls are actually antagonistic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if the story went in the way where it turned out these anti-heroes were more antagonists than protagonists, that could make sense, but it doesn't really come into play. So anyway, in some ways, this is probably the best issue of this run, and in other ways, it's the first one that really shows cracks in the facade.
Yikes. Okay, and we're only 2 issues in. But let's keep going, and now we're going to have Paul do the honors of summarizing the 3rd issue.
If I can, I might need help.
Okay.
So because there's no real threat posed by the Skrulls, they're just, like doing Invasion of the Body Snatchers and hanging out. Then we have to introduce some kind of villainous aspect, and that's why Baron Strucker is here, and that's why Captain America's here. So you feel almost at first like, well, then Captain America and Baron Strucker are taking over the comic, because there's not really much story going with the Kill Krew and the Skrulls. So I have no idea what's going on, really. Here's Baron Strucker celebrating to fascism, and apparently he's got a whole load of hordes of little fascist warriors, as all fascist dictators do. Where would they be without their adoring hordes, mindless adoring hordes? So that's going on. But then Captain America does he show up? Captain America shows up, I think.
Yeah, because he's been kind of sneaking around, right?
Yeah, so he shows up and shows he's very adept with his shield. He gets it to bounce around all over the place and come back to him, which is kind of handy. And I really don't know what's going on. I have
Well, now we're coming back to the plane.
Back on the plane, they've strapped a bomb. Somebody strapped a bomb to the man that Captain America was going to meet from the plane, right? Some kind of foreign dignitary. Who are the hijackers? Who are the people who strapped the bomb to him?
I don't know. Are they working? I don't know. I actually don't know. Are they working with Strucker? I don't know. Or Strucker? Adam,
Right.
do you know?
If Adam doesn't know,
They are.
we
Yeah.
didn't know. Who are they, Adam?
They are Hydra agents.
Oh, Hydra.
So,
Because
so anyone who's a baddie here, with the exception of our green-skinned friends, they are Hydra.
right, they're with Hydra. They're with Strucker. There's this foreign dignitary, and they want to get him for some reason. More kind of action. The funny thing is with the skinhead white supremacist guy, that joke, of course, is kind of funny. He wields a hammer. That comes back to him. See, that's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. It's not a Thor hammer. It's not Norse mythology. It's just some skinny white skinhead guy with an actual hammer, like as in I'm going to bang in some nails. And so he uses it to throw at people and hit people. And as far as I know, it returns to him, just like Thor's hammer. Anyway, Captain America soon finds himself in combat because the Skrull Kill Krew realized that the visiting dignitary is in fact a Skrull. It's like, who isn't? And so Captain America doesn't see the dignitary as a Skrull and thinks the Kill Krew are the bad guys trying to take out the dignitary. So then he's forced into a position of trying to save the dignitary and go against the Kill Krew. So this bit is a classic like Marvel team up conceit where you have to have a fight before they realize they're actually on the same team. And so Captain America is quite shocked by the ability of Ryder. Ryder's able to catch his shield and toss it back at him.
Great scene.
Yeah, it's all right. After that, what happens? More fighting between Captain America and Ryder until Ryder, shockingly, manages to just disappear after telling Captain America that he has to wake up. See, this bit was mildly interesting. This page was mildly interesting.
I agree.
Captain America was kind of accused of being a government stooge. And I think Mark Millar here may have actually read some Steve Englehart issues, which were, almost definitive Captain America issues, because Captain America says, I don't represent the government. The political system's got nothing to do with me. I stand for the dream, which is what Steve Englehart realized when he took over the writing. That's what Captain America is. And Ryder just tells him, yeah, but it's obvious you just don't know what I know, and it's time you woke up. So it's a good chastening of Captain America by a black Is he a Rastafarian? He looks
I don't know. Yeah,
no,
sure.
you see, they make some jokes about him resembling that, but he's not actually. There's no real indication. One thing I did like in this issue that we kind of skimmed over is when he's confronting Baron Strucker himself and he snaps his cigarette holder, which of his monogram saying, to my friend from Adolf Hitler, which I will admit, that made me chuckle.
Yes, it shouldn't be taken in any way literally. It is kind of funny, but I'm sorry, it's just not that witty.
Okay, so we're not done the issue yet. So what happens after that?
As I've said, all issue beats me. Well, Captain America now checks in with Nick Fury. Nick Fury, of course, who has the Valentina. She's the Contessa, right, from S.H.I.E.L.D., always by his side. And he says, this is what's going on, with the dignitary and shape-changing Skrulls and so on. And Nick Fury realizes something. What does he realize? I don't know.
That's it.
It's revealed he knows who Ryder is. I'll just say this now. We only have 2 issues left. Completely dropped. This is not brought up at all for the next 2 issues. And I don't think it would be touched upon again until Secret Invasion about, what would that have been? That would have been 10 years later?
Oh, yeah. More than 10, I think.
Right, yeah. But they used this for Secret Invasion, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But here's the thing, is that the way that this is all handled, like Captain America's, like when confrontation with Ryder, I think is well handled. The dialogue between them is interesting because we're seeing, and this is, a Scottish writer basically, where are we, criticizing, Captain America as a superhero and America as whatever it is, a power. I just think that, if I could find it, that conversation was interesting to me,
What I found interesting, though, it would just be one thing if that was a diatribe given by Ryder against Captain America, because I think lazy writers will use Captain America as just this fulcrum of all their contention with, the superpower of the United States, which, great, I will say there is a lot to criticize. But he gives room for Captain America to have a rebuttal. He, says, it's not that I'm representing this, it's the ideal, it's the dream. And they actually have a little bit of an exchange. This is maybe the most intelligence out of the entire particular series where we actually have this. And, even though he's chastising Captain America, he doesn't make him look like a fool. Like he does leave him saying, you have to wake up. And there's an interesting implication with that in the end, but it doesn't completely... I have to say, humiliate the characters. So that was surprising coming from Mark Millar. I was not expecting that.
So is this 1994 woke?
Maybe.
Sure.
You have to wake up.
Yep. And he is a black character, and that does come from black culture, right? So maybe that's what that's a reference to.
Well, long, I mean, before anybody really thought about other stuff, I think. But there is a connection. He is telling him you have to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And, that is the basis of the whole woke thing. It's just saying wake up to this and wake up to that.
Right.
And I will say, this gives writers some characterization, because something that is an issue with the preceding issues and what follows is that there's no character really for anyone. They have little tropes. You have the punk rock girl, you have the model girl, you have the surfer dude, you have the only other one who has a character is really the white supremacist. And it's not because of that he has a character. It's more that he's very smarmy and cocksure. And so that actually gives him a bit of a character, whereas everyone else is just interchangeable. They don't really have defining characteristics. Here we get an idea of who Ryder is, his kind of ethos, and it makes him, the most compelling, I'd say honestly the only real compelling character of the Skrull kill crew. And I might take back what I said. Maybe this is the best issue of the entire run. Because honestly, if you remove most of the Skrull elements from here, you have a decent Captain America story. Not a great one, but you have a decent one.
Yes.
And the dialogue is as good as usual.
Well, no, it's actually better than what it's been in the previous issues.
It's better.
It's better. Even this right here, something definitely comes to mind. This is bad, Cap, real bad. And then the next page sounds like Ryder just resurfaced. Very 90s, but still, that's cool. Whatever.
They are on motorcycles too, so yeah.
Yep. Okay, so now we're going to jump to are we in the 4th issue already?
Yeah, the penultimate issue.
Okay.
And it even says on the cover, "For War."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so funny, because I just assumed with Mark Millar being such an edgelord, I thought at first, because I didn't bother looking at the cover too much, that I actually said 4-way.
Wow.
No. But did you notice this? The world's most hateful comic magazine? That's funny. Come on.
That's pretty on par, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I believe it's your turn, right, Adam?
Oh, sure, why not? So, for all of our talking about the invasion of the body snatchers parallels, this is where it really comes into play. And basically, we get back to what the book is about after this 2-issue excursion in a Captain America storyline, which is about the Skrull kill crew killing Skrulls. So a salesman is going through this small town, and he's failing to sell his products, noting that everyone's acting a little weird, and then he happens to see the Fantastic Four fly overhead in their fantastic car. He meets up with a woman who talks about how strange the town is. These could be the Fantastic Four. It's weird that they're always flying around this town, and she voices suspicions about how strange everyone's acting and these sort of delusions that she feels she's having. Even like her own child has been replaced, and you see the child very piercingly looking at her through the bars of his crib. Very interesting setup so far. Then we get more and more of the salesperson going through town. You do get the sense that he's being signaled out, or that he's being stymied from leaving. People don't allow him to make phone calls, and they're following him around, and suddenly he's cornered at a wall, and he looks at the shadows of all the people surrounding him. And of course, with those big flappy ears, it can mean only one thing: a society of Wolverines. No, they're Skrulls.
Right.
So then we cut back to the Skrull kill crew. They're having some dialogue, exchanging some somewhat humorous barbs. They're asking for food, and someone's saying they make the best hamburger. A writer is going, maybe hamburger isn't for us right now. Do you have any French fries instead? And then we get an interesting story beat with Moonstomp. So something we've somewhat neglected to look at is that, in addition to all these fantastical powers which make them almost overtly overpowered beings, they have these sort of seizures and these debilitating episodes which prevent them from really just being infallible. And one of the symptoms of this sort of genetic attack that happens with this shifting of their genes to Skrull DNA is, beyond the seizures and beyond these episodes, Moonstomp is actually getting these dark pigmentations of skin on him. So, there's this interesting exchange where Ryder goes, hey, you're turning into the thing that you hate the most, which is me, a black man, which is just giving me horrible flashbacks to that Punisher two-part storyline where he gets cosmetic surgery to become a black person. It is, we'll talk about that another time.
Right.
Again, this could be an interesting concept in the right hands with enough nuance. Is not the case here, nor is it really explored, but that's neither here nor there. What is important are fight scenes, and we're going to get some because the Fantastic Car flies overhead. No tension, no suspense. We immediately see, nope, these are all just Skrull imposters. So they shoot down the Fantastic Car and they combat the Fantastic Skrulls, who all actually have the powers of the Fantastic Four. Seems a bit of a downgrade compared to the Super Skrull, who had all four of their powers in one, but be that as it may, it is what it is. And there is no attempt to be discreet from the fact that they are Skrulls. They're actively killing civilians. In fact, in one of the more shocking moments, they outright killed the mother of some children right in front of the children within this vehicle, which was a very shocking moment, something I was not experiencing. And in fact, later on, the children themselves are killed in this big punch-up with the Skrull Fantastic Four crew. Anyway, the battle ensues. There's more and more provocative dialogue and battling. The crew are finally able to best them, severely overpowering each of them and dispatching the imposter Fantastic Four in very brutal and violent fashion. I don't need to get into the minutia of it, but just rest assured they live up to their name of the Skrull Kill Crew. And what's revealed is, as they venture further into the town, they see that original salesperson leaning against a tree from earlier in the issue, and they see, because of their vision, that he's actually a Skrull. And as they prepare to take out their guns and shoot him, they look around the town and they realize the entirety of the town has been replaced by Skrulls. And this sets up an interesting thing, and it's confirmed in the next issue. This is the first time we really see the Skrulls as adversaries. It's not simply that they're trying to cohabitate the Earth in disguise. They're taking over and they're replacing people, really nailing in that invasion of the body snatchers parallel that Nice Man was talking about. So yeah, we actually get to the meat of what the Skrull Kill Crew is, taking away a lot from that potential of maybe this being a twist. Maybe they're more of an antagonistic group, and what an interesting parallel that could have been. Instead of being just anti-heroes, they're just not heroes at all. They're actually almost xenophobes, destroying this alien race, trying to just find refuge on our planet. But they didn't go for that storyline, and this is what we have instead.
And, I'll say one thing. Now that I know it was meant to be a regular series, it explains more why every issue is kind of just jumping around, starting something new. Like we had Captain America, now we have the FF. And it kind of makes more sense. I wonder if there ever was really one cohesive vision for how it would wrap up. But probably not, right? Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this issue to me was kind of forgettable. It was kind of just a big fight scene. As usual, I definitely like some of the dialogue, but it was kind of just an excuse for them to fight the Fantastic Four and to have a lot of over-the-top violence. But I still enjoyed it. Nice Man, what do you think?
Well, I was just trying to look up about if there's any wording about it being like an ongoing series, and whether they had to suddenly speed it along or wrap things up. In honesty, I just think it's just kind of more of the same, really. A little bit interesting. So here, the sales guy who couldn't sell anything, right? He's also a Skrull. Is that right?
He's been replaced by a Skrull, yes.
Oh, he's being replaced. He wasn't at first, but now he's being replaced. Yeah, I see. So because it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, yeah. I don't really have anything in particular to say about it, frankly. I mean, I think it's, again, I like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers touches. I think that it is interesting that with the white supremacist, we learn that he's got a virus. And I think, is it the more agitated he becomes, the more the virus spreads in his body? And it manifests itself as his white skin turning black. So I like that. That's pretty funny in a way, really, isn't it? Of all the things to have, a virus that turns you into what you despise most. So yeah, that's even a bit Twilight Zone-ish. I like that. And I do like the last page with the families going to church, father, mother, kid with ice cream, and they're all Skrulls, you know? So if Invasion of the Body Snatchers, taught us that if an invasion was going to take place, it wouldn't be in the big cities. It would be in the small towns, unnoticed, until bit by bit it spreads across the land. And here it is, right? Is that small town. Is it in Invasion of the Body Snatchers? What's that town? Santa Mira.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's this comic's Santa Mira.
There you go. All right, one more issue to go, folks, and I believe it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
Final stop, Skrullsville. Okay, so again, opening up with very shocking violence. A woman answers her door, and she's blown away. Then the father's blown away. Then the son is blown away. Yeah, it's all part of the fun. And we're cutting around to the other members of the Skrull kill crew taking on people in the city, right? And oh yes, and also their Skrulls are altering their forms in order to fight back at them. And of course, I just read this today, and I barely remember what happened. But oh yeah, so this is a Skrull ship that comes in, right? And I don't remember what happens after this.
Basically, they're just trying to signal to everyone in the community to go in their battle forms and, trying to relay everything into some sort of defensive measures. It doesn't work, though, obviously, from this panel. An interesting thing that we kind of looked over is that the character, the surfer person, has this weird thing where he transforms into a slot machine. And his head gets 3 lemons and he explodes as pure energy. Like, the powers these people exhibit, from shape-shifting to body manipulation to becoming complete energy, is just, it's off the charts. This is like when a 13-year-old is trying to create a superhero persona in a role-playing game and they make them completely overpowered. This is essentially every member of the Skrull kill crew. But anyway, that's just a little aside. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And that's basically it. So then they've defeated all the Skrulls, killed all the Skrulls in this town. Then we cut to like a little epilogue where they go to order some fast food at this place, and then Ryder in the reflection sees that the guy serving him is a Skrull, so he blows him away. And then that's pretty much it. They kind of walk off and ride off into the sunset, and then ends with the sign, "You are now leaving Skrullsville, population 0," and that's the end. Again, huh?
Well, Mike, I just wanted to say one thing that we neglected to say, that obviously these people are being replaced by Skrulls. It's made explicitly clear in this issue, the Skrulls kill these human beings, then replace them. So this is the only time outright we're really shown that the Skrulls are adversarial, in the sense where they're just not putting people into stasis and trying to take over to populate a new planet. No, they are killing everyone in order to replace them. That's been stated multiple times in this issue, which is a bit odd because, again, the Skrulls are never really seen as being any sort of threatening force up until this point, really up until the previous issue. And here, yeah, that is kind of a major twist, because we already saw in Mark Millar fashion the shocking death of 2 children and a mother in the previous issue. Here's an entire town's worth of people killed. Twice, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's funny because I'm defending it, but I mean, again, I guess it's kind of like empty calories. I do enjoy it. It is entertaining, but there's not much substance to it. But I still do think the dialogue flows better than most comics from Marvel at this time.
Don't you think that there's a lot of word balloon heavy pages throughout the 5 issues? It's like, wow, there's a lot of dialogue.
I mean, but I didn't find myself bored by any of the dialogue, though, so I didn't mind it. Whereas, like, again, Mark Grenwald, I love Mark Grenwald, but there were pages of Quasar I would just skip right over because it would be flashing back to a 1970s Submariner story. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm just going to skip right over that, you know?
But I have to question, like, with the actual makeup of the team, why these people? Because you have 2 compelling characters with Rider and Moonstomp. And Moonstomp, may I just say, this whole twist of his character, which is very intriguing, doesn't go anywhere. It's left unresolved. Later on in Secret Invasion, they touch upon this group again, and there's a little bit of resolution given, but this whole notion that, oh, he'll slowly turn into the thing that he hates, and this examination of what it means to be someone who is an abject racist having to work underneath a black individual, like, that's potentially compelling stuff that is just, again, it ends at issue 5, but for all the fight scenes and carnage, you could have had a few pages of dialogue or something to add to that. But you couldn't because you had 3 other characters who are useless. You had the surfer, the punk rock chick, and the model. Why did you need so many other characters?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do anything. There was no sense of characterization for any of them. They're just these overpowered beings that are meant to have cool names and look great, but they don't. They're like every other 90s, big patched, long-haired, edgy-looking character. Like the Laurie Anderson-looking one is at least somewhat distinct with her suit and her spiky hair, but the other 2 are just so nondescript. I mean, I think what they missed out on was just having one additional member of the Skrull kill crew. You kind of get them to understand and learn from these 2 what their mission is. And I think as an ongoing, because this was originally supposed to be an ongoing, you could have this development and understanding of what their mission is, why they're killing Skrulls. I mean, I don't think the writing was particularly strong throughout these 5 issues, to be honest, but it probably would have been better if it was elongated to allow some room to breathe. But even this 5th issue, as you said, this was kind of like a Hail Mary. It was we're going to end at issue 4. The editor said, no, we really just want to wrap this up. Let's just get a resolution here. And so everything had to be so condensed for this.
And I honestly do think if it would have continued on, they could have developed all those ideas, In fact, I'm surprised they never did. I don't know why, because Grant Morrison and Mark Millar did come back to Marvel eventually, so I don't know why they didn't pick up on this, but
well, I will say,
bigger fish to fry.
Well, there are other storylines with the Skrull kill crew that go on for Secret Invasion, and I think a few storylines afterwards. Mainly, it's just involving Rider and Moonstomp anyway, from what I understand, which makes sense because they're really the only compelling characters. There's another one called 3D Man that's involved as well, but again, it's not anything really tangential to what's happening in these 5 issues. I will kindly shut up in a moment, but let me just say I felt this was kind of mindless fun. I don't think it was great. I did not care for the art that much. I thought the violence was excessive. But you know what? As a weird novelty, it was mildly entertaining, like watching a Steven Seagal action film. Did I feel enriched by it? No. But was I mildly entertained for about an hour to 90 minutes? Yeah, and maybe sometimes that's good enough.
I agree, Adam. Paul?
It has a few good things going for it. Mm-hmm. The concept, what can we say? Alluding to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that little conversation between Captain America and Ryder. But I think that's kind of about it, really. I mean, okay. I would have, honestly, if someone offered me the 5 issues complete, I'd probably I'd buy it for like 25 cents.
Okay. I do have the original issues, by the way. I did track them all down.
How much are they worth now? 10 cents?
Not much. Oh, not much. But I mean, there's a little bit of demand because it's Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. But
Yeah, but still, it's not really. I would say it's not really Grant Morrison.
but apparently, it is considered Grant Morrison's worst comic.
And what a surprise! And Grant Morrison did Animal Man, commercially successful. Doom Patrol, New X-Men, commercially successful, and so on and so on. And here, Grant Morrison with Mark Millar, no, commercial failure. Aztec, what was that series called? Aztec what?
Aztec the Ultimate Man.
Aztec the Ultimate Man with Mark Millar, commercial failure. So when Grant Morrison teamed up with Mark Millar, it was a commercial failure. But when he was by himself, then no, it was commercially successful. So
We'll talk more about that as we get through more Mark Millar comics. I believe we've lost Adam. Adam, you still there?
well, you see, Adam was a Skrull,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he's just been taken out.
We've actually run out of things to talk about because we've reached the end of our review. But just to give Adam a chance to come back, do you have any Mark Millar stories to share with us? Have you ever met Mark Millar?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, you, Paul. You're the only one here.
I thought you were like maybe speaking into the ether in case.
No.
No, I have zero Mark Millar stories. I do think Grant Morrison is insane.
Wait, okay. Let me just say, Grant Morrison is my second favorite writer and one of my favorite creators in all media. Like, he's absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah,
But, I mean, I don't believe that Grant Morrison was abducted by aliens.
right. And I don't, Alan, we're just saying Grant Morrison is a great writer. He's given us some great comic books. By himself, commercially successful. Paired with Mark Millar, no, commercial failure. Coincidence? I think not.
I'm going to say one thing, though, in this defense. This is the best Mark Millar comic I've ever read.
There you go.
It is also the worst Grant Morrison comic I've ever read. I'll just put that there.
Well, let's think very quickly about other Mark Millar stuff. Mark Millar's Fantastic Four, shite. Mark Millar,
Nemesis.
I hated Nemesis.
I hate that.
Yeah, me too. But Ultimates was good.
I was not a fan.
It was made into a film. They made 2 films of it.
You mean
Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass? There was also Wanted.
Yeah, and in that, that Secret Service guys, whatever the hell.
Kingsman. I didn't even see those. No, there's enough stuff he's done that I hate, but I do think that, he's done enough that I also like. So he's kind of in the middle. I think he has talent. It's just that, like you said, his ego gets the best of him. He's the Oasis of comic writers.
The Oasis?
Yeah.
Why would he be an Oasis?
Is he
because the band Oasis has talent. I just thought it meant like an Oasis. No, they make 2 good albums and then their egos go through the roof and then they make shit the rest of their lives, so.
I guess.
And yet the kids still love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm just trying to think. So there was that other one Mark Millar did, was Option for TV, was it? What was that? Some island or something? What was it called?
Oh, I don't know, but I think
one issue. I think I got.
One thing I'll say about Mark Millar: do you guys know that a few years ago, he sold his entire catalog to Netflix?
Yes.
For something crazy like $75 million.
Yes. Millar would.
Yeah, and Netflix was like, we think Mark Millar is the Stan Lee of the 2000s. No, he's not. Granted, no, he's created a lot of comics that have made a lot of money, but I don't consider him. I mean, almost everything he does is derivative of something else, right?
But it's his movies that make money. Like, I have to admit, I quite enjoyed the movie Kick-Ass.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Typical pretty bullshit Mark Miller title. It has to be sensationalized, kick ass. But I quite enjoyed it. But yes, as you say, very derivative. His Kingman movies have made a lot of money. There's been at least a couple of them.
Yeah.
What else did he have made into a movie? I think you mentioned it.
There's one more, Wanted.
Oh, Wanted, yeah. I mean,
the thing is there's guys in Hollywood that make a living out of just pitching high concept, crazy ideas,
yes.
and that's what Mark Miller is, but he's for comics. Like Grant Morrison's an infinitely better writer, but Grant Morrison's concept cannot be boiled down to the elevator pitch the way Mark Miller's can.
This reminds me of like John Grisham stuff, for example. And it goes a little bit to when, I spent that brief time in Hollywood and got paid to read books and scripts and evaluate.
Sounds like a nightmare anyway.
No, I mean, I enjoyed
No kidding. I would have loved that anyway.
But which books could you really make into movies? The not very literary ones. Yeah. The ones that are like painting by numbers, A, B, C, D, because it's easily digested, easily transformed. And if a book really is a novel, with great writing, that's the medium. It can't go with any ease into movies. It's a totally different medium, which of course is what the argument Alan Moore was making about Watchmen. Right? No, I've written this purely for comic book medium. You can't just make it into a movie. My favorite novel, A Passage to India by E.M. Forster. Mm-hmm. It's very literary. I mean, David Lean directed it, but I in all this time, all these years, I've never watched the movie because I thought, no, you can't do this. It's literature.
It's funny you should, yeah.
But great, really good literature. Your cat is a Skrull, Adam. Look at it.
I'm noticing.
Really good literature.
Across my face.
Just cannot go. So when you have really good comic books, like Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, Animal Man, am I saying they're great literature? They could never be adapted. No, I'm not saying that. But I think it's easier to adapt a Mark Miller comic book, much easier, because there's no real depth to them.
On that point, there were discussions at some point about adapting this into either a series or a feature-length film, which makes sense. This is just typical of what late 90s television would have been, a weekly of a cast of characters going into a town, trying to find who the Skrulls are, fighting the villain of the week, and moving on. And I think that sort of ease of translatability for a TV serial is exactly what you're describing. To me, I even say and would argue for the successful adaptations of Mark Miller works, the stuff that, when I say successful, I don't mean artistically, I mean financially. The stuff that people have watched, the Kingsmen films, which I've heard are decent. I've never really watched them. Kick-Ass, of course, was a major success, enough to warrant a sequel. The thing is with those, they weren't fully faithful to the source material. Scriptwriters came in and they rewrote elements, or they worked with Mark Miller to say, these story beats don't cohere to this quite as well. We need to make some shifts. So even the things that people really liked about those works, I even question if people like Mark Miller, or they just like the concepts he came up with and someone else streamlined it for appropriate for television or for film. And I think that's what people really miss out on. Like Mike was saying, this is an elevator pitch guy. Even this, which conceptually I like the idea of the Skrull Kill Krew, is an elevator pitch comic. It's a great concept, but it doesn't get off the ground. And, I'm not going to blame the quality of the comic for its failure. We were in the big depression of the comic industry at this time where the speculator boom crashed. But I don't think, even foregoing that disaster, that this necessarily would have had anything beyond a significant, I will admit, cult following.
The other thing I'll say about Mark Miller, I've noticed, the strange thing is, I don't know anyone that loves Mark Millar. For a guy that sells as many comics as he does, have you ever met someone that's like, oh, Mark Millar, now there's a good writer? Like, I've bought a lot of his stuff, and I know a lot of people that have read his stuff, but I don't know anyone that loves him.
Yeah, I
Only
don't.
online. Sorry.
Okay. What's that, Paul?
No, I've never heard anybody.
Okay. Even
There are books and articles about Alan Moore and Grant Morrison.
Right.
Whenever
And Neil Gaiman, right?
Yes, I mean, whenever these British stuff is mentioned, but I mean, have you ever read a good critique of Mark Millar?
Never.
There must be something somewhere, shouldn't there be?
That's what's strange is it's almost like there's a lot of people that read his stuff, but no one loves it. I don't know what it is. But anyway, enough about Skrull Kill Krew, everybody, because we've got to talk about what we're doing next week. Hopefully, we can recover our reputation for reviewing good comics next week when we do Miracle Man Book 2.
We have a reputation?
Huh? Yeah, we have a reputation. A very elitist reputation. We only review the good stuff.
Well, we've really screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be covering all of these stories from Miracle Man Book 2. It's a little bit compared to 1 and 3, but still some really good stuff in there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm sure you are too, Paul and Adam.
Well, yeah, because it's Alan Moore.
That's right.
I mean, there's signs of intelligent life.
Right. All right, with that being said, I want to thank Nice Man and Adamantium for joining me as usual. You can find all of our episodes of UK CORRAL on YouTube or at the website comicbooksyndicate.com. We're going to be reviewing every single comic ever written by a British writer. So we're in for the long haul. Be sure to join us every 2 weeks. And until the next time, see you later.